the Goatman peering through my window. Even now, years later, the one place in the world that still makes my skin crawl and sends shivers down my spine is my grandmother's farm. Every 3 years, when my parents and I visited her cozy little one-story cottage, I was always given the same bedroom. It had velvet blankets and puffy pillows that gave the room a warm, comforting feel, just like the rest of the house. But once the sun went down, the large window across from the bed painted a completely different picture, one of the dark, unsettling woods outside. It never helped my already overactive imagination. Since I was 6, my mind had been tormenting me with vivid nightmares, night terrors, and hallucinations from sleep paralysis. So it's no wonder I feared that window more than anything. Most kids imagine monsters hiding under the bed or in the closet. But at Grandma's, mine was always outside that window. The first time I saw it, it was 2 in the morning. I remember the way I was breathing, quick and shallow, as if the sound alone might give me away. Outside, standing at the edge of the trees, was something I thought could only be a nightmare. It looked like a goat, but it stood upright like a man. Its furry, twisted body was shaped almost like a human's, and its claws hung low around its thighs. I squeezed my eyes shut and hid under the blankets, praying it was just a figment of my imagination. Needless to say, I barely slept that night. The next morning, while my parents were in town at Walmart, I tried to shake off the memory. As always, I found comfort in talking with Grandma. We had a special bond. Conversations with her always felt easy and fun, no matter our age difference. That day, I asked her about the animals she kept on the farm. "Oh, we've got all sorts," she said with a big toothy smile. "Chickens, peacocks, pheasants, mules, sheep, hogs, ducks, horses, ponies, bantams. I'll allow just about any animal here, except goats." "Goats?" I echoed, instantly thinking back to what I'd seen the night before. "Why not goats? Don't people milk them and make cheese and stuff?" Her smile faded. She ran her fingers slowly through her gray hair, her eyes staring off as if she were somewhere far away. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "Well, some folks say that after God created sheep, Satan tried to mock him by creating goats, twisted imitations. Displeased, God made wolves to prey on the goats, and in a furious rage, the devil bit off their tails, marking them as unholy." She paused, her expression unreadable, before adding something that made my heart skip. "I figured you would have seen it by now. Haven't you?" I understood what she meant instantly, and it took everything in me not to break down into a fit of terrified sobbing. The idea that my grandmother had just confirmed the creature outside my window was real was too much. I tried to convince myself it had all been a dream, and what she said was just a strange old story, nothing more. But Grandma saw the fear on my face, and with just a few words, shattered any hope I had of brushing it off. "It won't hurt you if you stay inside at night. There's nothing to worry about." She meant to be reassuring, but those words chilled me to the bone. It was like hearing your childhood nightmare wasn't a fantasy after all. It was real. After that, Grandma never brought it up again. She acted like the whole conversation had never happened. That night, I begged to sleep in my parents' room. Their bed faced away from the window, which gave me a small sense of safety. Still, as I lay there trying to fall asleep, I could have sworn I heard something, a light tapping against the glass behind me. Thankfully, the next day we left the farm, driving away from the shadowy woods and open fields of rural Maryland. I told myself I could finally forget about it. But 3 years later, I saw it again. It was around 11 at night. I had fallen asleep on Grandma's couch while the TV played softly in the background. I woke up to the sudden voice of a reporter shouting, "Breaking news!" Still half asleep, my eyes scanned the room, and that's when I saw it. The creature was crouched outside the living room window, peering in. It was the same half-goat, half-human being I had seen as a child. My body froze as I watched it spring up on 2 legs and bolt into the distance. I slapped myself, whispering, "Snap out of it! Snap out of it!" But no amount of self-reassurance could suppress the flood of memories and fear now breaking loose from the darkest corners of my mind. Panic surged through me. I started pacing the room, heart racing, trying to figure out where to go or what to do. Eventually, I managed to calm myself with the help of a few sleeping pills and drew the curtains tight before falling into an uneasy sleep. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen table. My parents were out shopping, and Grandma was at a doctor's appointment. I was alone in the house. Determined to make sense of what I'd seen, I pulled out Grandma's old Macintosh and started researching. I typed in "half goat, half man," which led me to Wikipedia pages about satyrs and fawns. Close, but not what I was looking for. I refined my search, goat creature in Maryland. That did it. Google brought up a Wikipedia article on something called the Goatman of Maryland. I clicked it immediately, and there it was, exactly what I'd seen. According to the page, the Goatman is a legendary human, half-goat creature with the body of a man and the head and hindquarters of a goat. Some Maryland locals believe it's the result of a failed scientific experiment involving genetic modification. Others say it's a demonic being, a literal spawn of Satan. Just like Grandma said, as I got deeper into my research, two likely suspects came to mind regarding the origin of the creature. The first was the Henry A. Wallace Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, not far from my grandmother's farm. And the second was the Satanic Temple, whose symbol is the goat-headed figure Baphomet. But I quickly had to rule both out. The Beltsville facility had never conducted genetic experiments on goats, and the Satanic Temple, despite its name, was an atheist group that didn't actually believe in Satan. That left me back at square one, still wondering what the hell this thing was. For the rest of that week, I saw it every single night. Whether I was trying to fall asleep in my room or watching TV in the living room, the Goatman was always nearby. Outside my window, it would stagger around the clearing, half shrouded in the night. If I stayed up watching television, I'd catch it standing outside, quietly watching the screen through the glass. And on the final day of our stay, while I was out feeding Grandma's peacocks at dusk, she came rushing to bring me inside. She'd spotted the creature approaching the edge of the farm. By the end of that second visit, seeing the Goatman had become almost routine. With the occasional reminder from Grandma, I learned to respect it, to keep my distance and not challenge its space. But 3 years later, on my third visit to Grandma's ranch, I learned what happened when someone didn't. That summer, a chilling headline spread through the local community. 10 professional boar hunters killed in animal attack. My parents were horrified, shocked by the gruesome report. But when Grandma and I locked eyes, there was something unspoken between us, mutual understanding. The following morning, a newspaper arrived at the farm, and the story was front-page news. The article reported that 10 seasoned hunters were found dead in the woods, mauled beyond recognition by what authorities described as a wild animal. What made the event all the more baffling was that every hunter's rifle, each one loaded with a full AR-15 magazine, had not fired a single shot. It was as if none of them had time to react. My parents, who still had no idea about the Goatman, were just as clueless as the investigators. So I finally asked Grandma, why haven't they seen it? Why don't they know? She gave me a long look and said, well, the creature only shows itself to those it takes an interest in. It feels nothing for some people, like your parents, but others, it's drawn to them, like it is with us. And then there are those it despises, like those hunters who ignored its territory. You see, it can change its view of people over time. I have the scars to prove it. When I was a girl, it came after me too. But once it got used to me, it left me alone. My parents, your great-grandparents, weren't so lucky. It didn't take to them. They passed, and I survived. That tells you just how unpredictable it can be. I was trembling, completely shaken and, honestly, more than just freaked out. The Goatman had attacked Grandma when she was young, and now I realized just how easily it could change its opinion of me. For all I knew, it switched its feelings toward people the way a teenage girl swaps outfits, on a whim. During my last visit, it had seemed like we'd reached some kind of understanding. I'd seen it nearly every night. It had even watched TV with me through the window, and not once had I stepped outside after dark, when the farm belonged to it. I'd shown it respect. But now I was wondering, could it just forget all that? Or was I simply reading too much into what Grandma had said? In the years that followed, every trip to the farm came with unsettling news. There were stories of mutilated hikers, missing campers, and dead farm animals turning up in nearby areas. The Goatman was growing more aggressive. One time it locked eyes with me through the window. Its gaze, those black, soulless pits, pierced through me. And for the first time since that night, all those years ago, I was consumed by a paralyzing dread. It felt like the fragile bond I'd once had with it was breaking. And I could tell Grandma sensed it too. She started buying more curtains to cover the windows, replaced the door's lock with a sturdier one, and even began taking shooting lessons at a nearby range. Her weapon of choice? A shotgun. At one point, I tried to appease the creature. I left out food, pig feed, in the open field, hoping it would take that instead of something living. But it ignored the offering and instead snatched a hog right out of the pen, vanishing into the woods with the screaming animal in tow. On the final day of that visit, I was jolted awake by deafening bangs at the front door. The whole house shook. Grandma was already up, gripping her new shotgun, and my dad stood nearby with a baseball bat, both of them braced for the worst. They waited, but the door never opened. After a few tense minutes, the banging stopped. Silence fell, broken only by the chirping of crickets and croaking frogs outside. The Goatman was gone, for now. After that terrifying night, we didn't return to the ranch for 5 years. By then, I was almost done with high school. Given the rising reports of people in Grandma's town being found murdered inside their own homes, my parents urged her to move. But being the stubborn Marylander she was, she refused. In her mind, she knew every inch of that cottage and believed it was well fortified. A few weeks ago, we finally returned to that dreadful farm. I immediately noticed barbed wire stretched along the outer edges of the field. The number of animals had dwindled since our last visit, and I could swear some of the pigs that remained had faded scars. Scratches, gouges, even bite marks that no bear could have possibly inflicted. I was more on edge than I had ever been in my life. And I'm not exaggerating. I was more anxious than during the SAT, and easily 10 times more nervous than the night I asked my crush to prom. It felt like I was a soldier being sent into hostile territory, and the reason was clear. The Goatman knew I was back. I could feel it watching, sensing me the moment I stepped onto its land. That night, I sat down with Grandma. She handed me a newspaper detailing how the FBI was now involved in the string of rural Maryland murders. According to the article, the authorities were confident they'd catch the killer soon. But Grandma wasn't buying it. She said many of the nearby farmers believed the FBI's real goal was to cover up the truth, to keep the public from learning about what was really behind the deaths. At dinner, I barely touched my food. My family talked and laughed like everything was normal, but I couldn't tune in. My mind was elsewhere. After the meal, I quietly slipped off to my old room, closed the door, climbed into bed, and waited. Hours passed, and then I saw it. Out in the field beyond the window, the Goatman dragged a blood-soaked doe into view. Its body was limp, its throat torn open. The creature tore into the deer's belly with its jagged teeth, yanking out coils of intestine and devouring them like candy. Blood spilled across the grass under the pale moonlight. Then suddenly it stopped and turned its head, facing me directly. In a burst of rage, it flung a chunk of the deer's flesh at my window. I jolted back as blood smeared across the glass like a sudden rainstorm. Heart pounding, I leapt out of bed and rushed to the window, just in time to see the Goatman vanish into the woods, leaving the mangled deer behind. It was taunting me. I knew it. I climbed back into bed, the blood on the window slowly sliding downward. I wrapped myself in my blanket like it was armor, bracing for what might come next. I don't know how I managed it, but somehow I fell asleep, all while a piece of the Goatman's latest kill clung to my window pane. That night, I had the worst nightmare imaginable, something no human mind should be capable of conjuring. It was a once-in-a-lifetime terror where the Goatman crept into my room, slicing chunks of muscle from my limbs and carving out pieces of flesh from my torso with its claws. It strangled me with its twisted horns. The pain was agonizingly real. I could smell the rancid stench of its filthy, matted fur. My mind felt like it was screaming at me, begging me to wake up. And somehow I did. Drenched in sweat, I jolted awake, gasping for air like I'd just been dragged from the bottom of a lake. My eyes darted around the room, desperately searching for any sign of the Goatman. But almost instantly, I noticed something was wrong. The door was wide open, and on the inside of the window, smeared in thick, dark streaks, was deer blood. Then I heard it, a soft, repetitive tapping. But it wasn't coming from the window this time. It was coming from the bed. From behind me, two furry hands appeared, slumped over the frame, their claws dripping blood onto the sheets. I went still, paralyzed with fear. The Goatman rose to its feet, tilting its head as it examined me with lifeless, unknowable eyes. I was too shocked to run, too weak to fight. I simply braced myself, ready for death. But instead of tearing me open, it spoke. "You be not ripe," it said in a low, chilling voice. Then it dropped to all fours and scurried out of the room like a nightmare made real. When the police arrived, they found my grandmother dead from a heart attack. The FBI followed soon after. They wiped every trace of the incident, the blood, the door, the signs of forced entry. It was as if nothing had ever happened. My parents were hysterical, shaken to their core, and booked us a hotel room to recover. I remember being weirdly comforted that the room was on the 3rd floor, high above the ground. That night I cried a little. Then I slept. I needed rest, even if the Goatman's cryptic words echoed endlessly in my head. That was 2 weeks ago. I truly believed I'd never have to return to that cursed farm again. But then I found out something that changed everything. Grandma had left the property to me. Not only that, but in her will, she specifically stated I should also inherit her shotgun. I don't want to go back. Every part of me wants to run the other way. But I can't shake the guilt. It weighs on me like chains. Her last wishes are pulling me toward that place. And deep down, I know I have to follow them. I've thought about asking a priest to bless the land, maybe even inviting a native elder to perform a smudging ritual. I'm skeptical any of it will help. Still, I have to try something. I don't know exactly when I'll return to Maryland, but I do know this: if I don't, more people are going to die.